Coming up, Aljamain Sterling claims victory at UFC 288, defeating Henry Cejudo via split decision. The Funk Master will now face off against Xiaonan in August. Belal Muhammad was able to cruise to victory against Gilbert Burns after the Brazilian suffered a debilitating injury early on in their fight. Muhammad is now set to face off against the winner of Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Yan Xiaonan shocked fans when she KO'd Jessica Andrade. Could a title fight in China be next? Matt Frevola becomes the latest lightweight to call out Paddy Pimblett after he finished Drew Dober in the first round. It's Frank Bonada here for the MMA stream, joined by Scotland's finest, Murdo Todd, back in the country after a trip away. We're here in the aftermath of UFC 288, where Henry Cejudo was defeated by UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling. A number of other interesting fights on that card, and across the whole sort of combat media sphere this past weekend. But we're going to be focusing on the UFC. Murdo, how are we today?
Yeah, good to be back in the country, and just it was a bit spotty getting the fights live at the weekend, so good to get back to normal watching,
Absolutely. Let's dive straight into it. The main event went down. I mean, people can't keep sleeping on Aljo anymore, can they? They can't keep discrediting him, because that's a very legitimate win against a very legitimate opponent. Obviously, it was a split decision, but I think the right man won in the end.
Yeah. Listen, we were talking off air about the kind of judging and the scorecards and stuff like that. It's like sometimes it's like it's bad, but it still manages to like they give people wrong rounds, but it still manages to work out that the right man won. But it was I think with the people complaining about the Cejudo round 5 on I think it's Derek Clearly.
Derek Clearly, yeah.
His scorecard is a clear round for Cejudo. And that would have obviously if he would have given that would have been a Cejudo win. Listen, the right man won at the end. A close fight, but something does need to be done about judging. I think we have this conversation every week, but I will say, what a fantastic win for Aljamain Sterling. All the credit, because you know what people are going to say. Oh, Cejudo's 36, coming off a 3-year layoff. He's a fantastic athlete and a fantastic fighter. So, and implementing the wrestling against Cejudo is super, super impressive.
It was a brilliant matchup with two people who, their grappling is really high level for both of them. I think Aljo got 3 takedowns on, an Olympic wrestler like Cejudo. Cejudo had success in the ground exchanges as well. The striking, I think we maybe were a little unfair to Sterling in the build of this fight, saying that his striking just isn't particularly good. But what I would say is his combination striking is not good. It's not existent.
Yeah.
But his technique on individual strikes, individual shots, especially some of his kicks, is solid, I think. And the length, and he uses the range well, and really manages to force his opponent back or create distance, discourage them from shooting down the middle. So it's his own game. It's a bit weird. I mean, he is the Funk Master, whether you like that nickname or not. It does sort of work for him. It is working for him. Look at the run he's on now. Corey Sandhagen, Piotr Yan, TJ, and Henry Cejudo. Like, that is a really impressive championship resume. So, let's see how he does going forward.
Yeah, I think regardless of how well he does in the cage and whatever like results he's going to get, I think like he's obviously trying very hard to push himself. I think his personality is pretty Marmite. I think people either like him or hate him. I think he can come off a little like cringe, I almost want to say.
Absolutely.
And then a bit like forcing it and stuff like that. But you see that a lot with these guys because they feel they have to promote themselves in a certain way. And it's like the trash talk's just not not there, and I don't know. I think it's difficult for him because people are always going to try and discredit him, whatever he does now.
Yeah.
Just kind of one of these guys that no matter what they do or say, it's just there's certain people that don't really like them that much. And whether you think that's sport though, that's why we're interested in it, because if we had no feelings about people, then we wouldn't really be interested. But yeah, super impressive for him. What's he number? He's number 6 pound for pound now. Do you think
It's
he moves
not
up at all?
possibly. I haven't checked who else is above him, but let's have a quick look now. Pound for
You got
pound.
Adesanya, Edwards, Makhachev, Volk, and then John.
Probably not. I think he probably is about where he should be right now, just
Yeah.
because of the asterisks is on the wins over, the first Yam win and the TJ injury and whatnot. But look, he deserves to be up there with all the other
Yeah.
champions in the UFC right now, and I think he could really carve out a pretty solid legacy now with
Yeah.
Cejudo being a really tough test for him. And it was a close fight. I think
Yeah.
Sterling deservedly won, but it was close, and he really had to overcome not necessarily adversity so much as just an ever evolving game plan against a natural athlete with a host of skills to fall back upon.
Yeah.
Thing is, his next fight is going to be against Sean O'Malley. We know this already. They faced off in the cage. UFC President Dana White said in the post-fight press conference that they're probably going to be looking at Boston in August for that title fight. Which, yeah, why the hell not? It's a fun fight. There's clearly some animosity there. What are your thoughts on Sterling versus O'Malley?
I like it. I really like it. And I think O'Malley, I wouldn't say is like, in terms of getting under people's skin, he's pretty decent enough trash talk. And I feel like he could really rile Sterling up a little bit. In terms of stylistically, to be fair to O'Malley, he defended the grappling and pretty well in the Peter Yan fight. Decent enough. To be fair, I thought he was going to get absolutely ran through in the Peter Yan fight. So he put up a very good, and I still rate Peter Yan very highly. So, people can say what they want. And I did feel like O'Malley lost his last fight, but I think he showed, the result wasn't his fault. And I think his performance was I wouldn't say outstanding. It was a very good performance, and he showed more levels to his game than people thought. He does have that power though, and if he can keep it on the feet, he could really catch Sterling. I would probably back Sterling. But it's a fun fight because it's a bit of unknown. And what do you think of it though?
Yeah, I also think I would probably lean towards Sterling. But like you say, it's a very fun matchup. Not only does O'Malley have the power, but he's actually bigger than Sterling. Sterling, the big thing that people were saying in the Cejudo fight was the size and reach of Sterling might be a big advantage. But you saw him facing off in the cage, and Sterling's a good, O'Malley's a good, I don't know, foot taller than Sterling in there. So yeah, the range, the power, the striking, his striking is better than Sterling, undeniably. And we always hear about Sean O'Malley's jiu-jitsu and grappling and whatnot. And I mean, this will be a test though, won't it? That's the whether we're laughing or not, whether we doubt it or not, we will find out, because he will get taken down at some point, unless he knocks Sterling out early or something. And we will get to see that his jiu-jitsu, his grappling demonstrated against one of the best grapplers in the division.
Yeah, I feel like we heard that it's like with the Conor McGregor. Oh, he is actually good at jiu-jitsu. He is, promise. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of that, but obviously he's good at jiu-jitsu because he's in the UFC. He's obviously a competent grappler. I don't think he's on the level of Aljamain Sterling, to be honest.
Well, he's not shown it.
He's not shown it. But I think it'd be fun build-up, fun fight. I do feel a bit sorry for Merab because he was going from holding Aljamain Sterling's bags to holding Sean O'Malley's coat. It's a bit of like, I don't know.
How can you feel bad for him, really? Because he, like Dana said, he was offered the Sterling fight. So what other matchup?
Yeah,
Like he'll.
it's they're
It's
like, oh,
it's a tough one.
we'll
What
never
else can you
fight
do?
each other. But it works well for it's only working well for Sterling because he's the champion. He's like, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll never fight each other, man. We're best friends. You're the champion, mate, and he's probably the toughest fight out there.
yeah.
Fucking,
I
they're,
think
I
that
mean,
I think they just do Marab versus Sanhagen. To be honest, I
yeah,
reckon
and then
that's the one to do.
yeah,
Because if Sanhagen managed to beat Marab, the rivalry with Sterling will be big enough that they can run the rematch. And
yep,
I think that makes sense. Also, Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sanhagen if O'Malley beats Sterling.
banger.
Well, that's probably one of my favorite matchups in that division right now.
I think that if Sterling wins against O'Malley, he's going to move up though, and let
Yeah,
Marab.
maybe. Man, it's
But
just
I,
like
he
if like
needs to let him have a shot. Do you know what I mean? He needs to
yeah,
share. Aljamain Sterling is hogging all the title shots.
I'm sure he will. Who's the older man? Actually, I'm not
Do you know
certain.
what? If it's Marab, feel so bad for him. Because see if he gets like KO'd in his next fight. Oh
So
no, poor Marab.
Sterling's 33. Marab is 32. Okay, so pretty close. Um, yeah, it's a interesting time, but at least I like that we have the next contender right there. We know
Yep.
what's happening, even with the weirdness that is Marab's place in the division. I feel like Marab Dvalishvili has become our like most talked about fighter over the past couple of weeks for some reason. Like keeps coming up in conversation. Come on then, let's move on to uh the most action-packed fight on the card. Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns. What a absolute letdown. That was just
Yep.
rubbish. It was so bad. Oh Lord. Obviously, Burns tears his shoulder, I think it was, in like a takedown,
Yeah.
and posting on his left arm. And fought 4 rounds, 4.5 rounds without a jab, without a left hand, One of the big things I was saying is like he has got a nice counter left hook. I was seeing like Belal step in and I was like, he could have thrown it if he had a
Oh
hand.
God.
But yeah, it was kind of rough viewing, right?
Yeah, it was it's an unfortunate thing to happen. It's and I think for both guys it's like because if Bilal when Bilal's won now and you can always say, oh well, you fought a guy with one arm.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, that is a fair critique of the fight. You can't yeah, fair enough, he won
Yeah.
and he won clearly, but you can always say that and it's not wrong to say that. I just yeah, I don't know. I just it's like almost the worst outcome. Like
Yeah.
really. Because even yeah, I don't know. What did you think of it? What
Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, it was awful. I just didn't enjoy watching it one bit. Like, yeah, and the outcome is that we get Bilal Muhammad versus the winner of Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. Like,
do you not think
yeah,
they should just do you not think they still should just feed him to Shavkat still?
Shavkat. The thing is, it's gonna be bloody ages until Bilal next fights
Yeah.
because there is still zero sign of when Covington
Well,
versus Edwards is going to be. Fuck, maybe they do
why not
Bilal
Usman?
Usman. What
Why not
Bilal
they do
Usman?
Usman? Yeah, get Usman. Yeah, I like that. I think that well, because if they're gonna make him sit out, like because when are Colby and
That's it. It's
Thingy
not
gonna fight?
booked. We don't
It's
know.
not booked. They don't seem any closer to it.
No,
So it's what? Because
I
they've already
reckon
have
September. I reckon or October.
September, October, because they spoke about doing it in Dubai. I don't know why everyone wants to fight in bloody
Is
Dubai
I think
all of a
Dana's already
sudden.
said that's not happening. So
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know why that came up, but yeah,
you know, something like that, and then it's going to be another 6 months after that. So what? You're going to fight in a year? You're going to wait out a year?
yeah, exactly.
They all oh, it's so frustrating when you see stuff like this. It's just like the timings never match up, and this is why you
Yeah,
need to have when a fight's like you need to get better at getting these content. When a fight is done, get the next one booked, especially if it's champion.
mm.
It's like, oh, Colby is next, but we've not come any closer to making a deal or an announcement, picking a date, anything like this. And
Yeah.
it's like it just backlogs the whole thing because you could then have, you know, Shavkat, let's say he fights Burns next or something like that. He runs through him, he gets another win.
That's so
I
rough for
know.
Burns.
It'll probably happen though. You know
Yeah,
that it
he
probably
might
will.
fight Usman. Go on.
Yeah, well, something like that. And it's like you have these other contenders in that year's time. You're going to go, well, actually, the recency bias. You go, well, actually, he's just beat him, and that's actually,
Yeah.
it's more
Yeah.
impressive. He also deserves one. So you kind of almost push Bilal out, and then in a year's time, the
Yeah.
hype's not going to be there. I mean, it's not necessarily there now, but it's like
People are
it.
screaming in the streets right now. Blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
and I found out that Gilbert Burns is part Scottish.
Is he actually?
Raging. His dad's Scottish or something like that.
No way.
Fucking yeah. My disappointment is immeasurable. I was really oh man, but here we have it. Just I don't know.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I don't think there's too much else to be said about it, to be honest. It just kind of sucks the way it played out.
yeah,
And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things do play out in the sort of title picture. Like you say, at the top of the division, does someone overlap him? The way Shavkat's been going, quite possibly, but it is what it is. I think probably the most impressive victory on the card for me was Yan Xiaonan knocking out Jessica Andrade in the first round. Oh my goodness. The straight shots down the pipe, just I was very vocal in my belief that even if Xiaonan was able to like use her range and land shots, maybe even land a higher volume than Andrade, Andrade would just smash her with massive shots, round
yeah,
winning moments and stuff like that. But if anything, Xiaonan landed the harder shots, just straight down the pipe when Andrade was rushing in with the chin in the air, looping these hooks. It's happening time and time again. And finally, she runs on to that straight, which just sinks to the floor, ground and pound, dead.
yeah. Yeah, super impressive. And I don't know. It's just one of those classic MMA doesn't make sense kind of results
Yeah,
thing. But you were saying that you want to see her face the champ, Zhang Weili, maybe in China or something like that.
absolutely. That is definitely the fight to make right now because there isn't a clear contender
Yeah.
at women's strawweight because Rose has hinted at moving up to flyweight. Amanda Lemos is a bit dull. I mean, she's quite fun to watch, but does she even
It,
have a personality? Um,
it's a bit more interesting. It's like you have
yeah,
these little you need to create the interest somewhere, and it's got a bit of a storyline, China v China in China.
exactly.
It would be a huge event.
Also, shout out Team Alpha Male producing Chinese fighters right now. Song Yudong and Yan Xiaonan both coming out of there. And I mean, Song Yudong is the perfect co-main event for a UFC China event as well.
Yeah.
Like stick him against Yan or Beer or Sandhagen, someone like that. Hell, Marab for that matter. Genuinely though, like, yeah, I having both those wins from two top ranked Chinese fighters in the space of a month is golden for the UFC.
Yeah.
And I do think Zhang versus Yan or Yan Xiaonan is the fight to make right now because yeah, it's a clear number one contender. Two Chinese fighters in a market that the UFC have been trying to break into for a long time now.
Yeah.
And Yan Xiaonan now has that highlight reel KO on her resume on her highlights package.
Yeah.
I think you can really sell that fight if it's booked soon and then they manage to capture this moment that Yan's having because some of her past fights have been a little lackluster, even though she's always a technically good fighter. She doesn't always pick up big finishes, but right now, this is her moment. This is the UFC's time to go and sell that fight, I think.
Yeah, and I think in terms of UFC, like in a business sense, it's like we see one pushing over to America into the West or whatever. The UFC needs to maybe do the same, go over to Asia and put some shows on there because all these other PFL, obviously won just this past weekend. Even Octagon MMA, they're doing shows all over the place. They're spreading about. America just goes to Las Vegas.
UFC.
Sorry. The UFC only go to Las Vegas, New York, and then just some random cities in Utah for some reason. Who isn't? I mean, it annoys me that they pick these rubbish places to go to. Do you know what I mean?
Especially because it's elevation.
Yeah, I know. It's so stupid. It's like, just sort it out, man. So they need to start doing or they go to London and they won't go to Manchester or Liverpool or any other places. London, you get
Liverpool. They won't let them. The people who own the old O2, it's the M&S
M&S Bank
now.
Arena.
Yeah, and they won't allow MMA to be events to be held in there because it doesn't fit their brand or whatever. Yeah, outrageous. Right, we're going over time, but one last one we've got to talk about. I think probably your highlight fight of the night: Matt Frevola versus Drew Dober. Banger, right?
Banger. You knew it was going to be a banger, though. You knew it, but I didn't think. Yeah, but like, have you seen this rock paper scissors? It's Terrence McKinney,
yeah,
Drew Dober, Matt Frevola. It's like, because it shouldn't. I think if you look at it like that, it shouldn't. Matt Frevola probably shouldn't have knocked out Drew Dober, but super impressive, man. He'll be getting himself in the ranking. He called out Paddy Pimblett. It's a winnable fight for the pair of them. I don't think.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Paddy deserves a shot at the top 15 whatsoever, but that's another discussion.
I mean, the thing is, though,
come on.
No, I'm not saying he does, but
look
also,
at you trying to justify it. Look at you trying to justify it.
The UFC, right? The amount of times Ian Gary right now, what is he on a 3-4 fight win streak, and he's fighting a ranked fighter. A Cage Warriors champion on an impressive undefeated within the promotion winning streak. It's not that out the grounds of reality, and like you say, I think it's a winnable fight for both men. It's a guaranteed fun fight, to be honest.
Yeah.
They both have enough personality to sell it. Paddy is still injured right now, but he will be back come the end of the year. So if Frevola wants to wait that long, they'll do it. Otherwise, Frevola versus Moicano or Jalen Turner or
Grant Dawson or something like that.
God.
Yeah, but you just want around there.
I know. Honestly, actually, I think that's a good fight for Frevola, to be honest, Grant Dawson, because Grant Dawson's striking is nowhere near on the same level as Frevola's, just in terms of power alone. He wrestles, but Frevola actually can wrestle, and he always gasses out, whereas Frevola's cardio is very solid. So I think actually Grant Dawson might be the best fight for him to take in that.
Yeah, division. And if you start looking up the way in lightweight, it's a little scary. It's a little scary. From 11, well,
everyone's terrified.
Why is Dan Hooker ranked 11?
Because Dan Hooker.
Oh, come on!
He finished Juarez.
Massive
V-bar prospect, one of the best grapplers in the division. Dan Hooker is right where he belongs.
He's not.
He's fighting Jalen Taylor.
God, that's ridiculous, man. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun fight. I think probably be a reason. I don't know what the fanfare for Paddy is now. I feel like there's just last fight week was just not great.
I think this is a good one to book because it will create because Frevola has a really solid fan base. Like, he's really built himself like an online social media based fan base. And I think you'll get a nice US versus UK sort of divide behind that one. Because whilst you might not be a Paddy fan, and I'm still somewhat on the fence of him, but there is still massive followings for him, especially Midlands and North England.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I like Paddy. I just think sometimes how he conducts him, especially recently.
That was a shit show. That was a shit show.
Was poor.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it's Graham Boylan as the manager, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I'm not even going to say anything. Not even going to say anything. Enough said. I mean,
he's still not happy about the Caelan Loughran comments.
Oh God.
Right.
Anyway,
look, I think that's enough for today. Thank you for watching. Decent event. We'll be back midweek for that UFC Charlotte card and whatever else goes on. Also, I did see Tony Ferguson got arrested for a DUI the other day, which is pretty shocking. Maybe we'll speak about that more midweek as details emerge. Find Murdo on Twitter at Murdo_Todd. I'm at Frank Bonada. Murdo, any last words?
No, none. After last weekend, absolutely.
Beautiful. All right. At least you're consistent. We're back next week. We out.